In this first part of our strip and dip strip along, we are only going to be going through the first couple of steps in the pattern. So make sure you have your pattern and make sure you have your multicolored strips that you're going to use for the diamond blocks. Your background strips or background fabric should be left for later. So we're starting with those, and like I said, have your pattern ready, and we are going to be getting ready to sew some strip sets. We're going to be making strip sets that include 3 strips, and whether you have cut your strips from fat quarters or they're full width, it really doesn't matter. So your strip sets are just going to be longer. One thing that I recommend doing, since we're going to be cutting these on the diagonal, is to stagger your strips, and so that we get more use of the fabric. So a little trick here, I recommend you take the 3 strips that you are going to be sewing together into a strip set, just stack them up so they're even here on the side. If you have our point trimmers, we will be using the 90-degree trimmer, the G-Easy point trimmers, and the package looks like this. So we'll be using the 90-degree, not just for this step, but actually throughout. And you can either use that or our Stripology rulers. I'm going to also show you how you can do this with a regular ruler. So for the whole strip along, you can use either the squared ruler or the XL ruler. We'll be using the 45-degree line. So you'll see that black dotted line here on the squared ruler. On the XL ruler, it is a black solid line. So we want to just make a little angle, a 45-degree angle at the end of our strip set, so that way you can stagger them and you're making the best use of your fabric. So I'm just going to align the flat long line of the trimmer on the bottom at the edge of the strip. I put it on the left edge of the strip. That's how we piece these together. And I'm just going to turn this. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to turn it this way. And I know this is not big enough to extend the ruler or extend the strip set, but I'm just going to start cutting this way and then just cut all the way through that way. And then I'm going to trim that little bit off so that I have an angled end here. So this is what's the bonus of having the point trimmers. You trim your dog ears off. Now that means that when I'm ready to sew these together into the strip sets, I will start with the first one, laying them on top. And I have this little flat tip that I can just align with the edge. And I sew my strip set and press and then add them on. If you don't have the trimmers, you can use the rulers for this. So let me just show you. You can stack up your strips. Let me just do one at a time so we can show you all options. Turn this one. So with the squared ruler, all you want to do is just put your strips kind of at an angle, and then you're going to use that black dotted line and align that along the bottom of the strip. And then we're just going to cut through the 0, which gives you that angled end like this. And of course, you're going to have that little point, but the only thing you would have to do when you're sewing the strip sets together is that you want to make that little dog ear stick out when you're lining them. So we'll work the same exact way with the XL ruler. And if you only have regular rulers, you can still do this. So you would just take your strips, layer them up. Now you should have a ruler that has a 45-degree line on it. So I have that here. I want to make this cut this way. So I'm going to line the 45-degree line on my ruler along the bottom of the strip. And then I'm just going to make the cut so you have that same angle, whichever ruler you used to do that. So moving on, once you have picked your strips, picked how they're going to come together, don't think too hard about how each one comes together. We want to make sure to sew 2 together first, and you want to make sure to press after each seam. So I sew 2 together and then I go ahead and press, so we can press in the same direction. So I just press these up and then I added the 3rd strip here, and then we're going to press this one. So I'm going to give you a little tip. I have an iron here, but do not worry, it is not hot. It is a cold iron, but I just want to give you a little tip on the pressing. So as we lay this, whether you have a full width strip or not, I'm going to just scooch this over. I have my ironing pad here. So again, this is not a hot iron. So once you have your strip, I always start by setting the seam. So you want to go right across the seam, make sure your strip set is laying straight, and then you want to push out with your fingertips. So you fold the strip out, and I'm right-handed, so I use my left hand to really push out that seam, and then I just move my iron straight across. I'm really pushing that seam out with my fingers all the way across, and the iron is just moving straight. We do not want to push with the iron because that's when we start getting a little bit of a wave on that seam. So again, push with your fingers and go straight across. I like to use steam, but of course that is optional. So then you have a set of strip that has 3 strips. Whether you did all the way full width, this is what your end will look like, or if you did just half width strips. So with the half width strips, sometimes it's easier to manage to just do fewer at a time, and they're shorter, easier to manage. And then you have more variety too. If you're making a smaller quilt and have just a few colors, you can have a chance to mix them up even more. But of course you can do the full width too. That's going to save you a little bit of time as you are just piecing. So whichever way it goes, that is that first step of our strip along. So I want you to finish doing all of your strip sets according to the size that you are making. And so that will be indicated in the pattern. 6, 10, and 18, I do believe, are the numbers. And so I always start you off easy. So this is a very easy first step. And join me then next week when we move on to the next step of the pattern.